but the attention of others around our community to this very important issue of racism and racial relationships in our community. We ask, oh God, your blessings now and keep us safe from harm and from danger, and watch over us as we share together. We pray and ask these blessings in your name and for your sake. Amen. Let me just take a minute and encourage you. First of all, I want to just remind you that I'm one of those who marched during the 1950s and 60s with Dr. King. I was a part of the march on Washington for when he delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. I was there for the march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, when he delivered the How Long, Not Long speech. And I met him in person and spent time with him and his family members here in Utah since that time. So it's my pleasure to see his legacy being carried on around and about this particular issue. As we gather here today, we share with the grief with the family of Mr. Floyd. We also share the grief of many others who have lost their lives tragically and sadly during the days of the last few months here in our community. But not only that, I was telling the mayor and the police chief that this is nothing new to us, that this activity that has called everybody to excitement has been what we've lived with for many years, in fact, all of our lives. I grew up in Georgia, lived in Alabama, Florida, lived all over the United States of America, California, and came to Utah in 1972. And when I came to Utah, I discovered that there was a lot of work that needed to be done here. And still, much of that work is still left undone. So thank you for your attention to the work and to the effort, and let's do it and do it peacefully and in harmony. Let's do it non-violently, and let's get the task done. It's my pleasure, and now I turn you back over to Amar.
Thank you, Reverend Davis. Can we give him one more hand, please? Next, we're going to give another leader in our community, Pastor Morrow, with Murray Baptist Church, who is just an amazing man that I've just had the opportunity to meet and very highly respected in our community. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you, Kamal. I want to say thank you. I don't have the booming voice that Pastor Davis does about I'm learning. Can you hear me? Yeah. As Pastor Davis said, I am excited to be here and excited to see you all. One of the things that you've heard, if you've been watching the media nationally, the media says, wait a minute, they are protesting in Salt Lake City, Utah. There's not even enough black people to make up a good protest in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is true. However, what they are seeing nationally is that here in Salt Lake City, Utah, we have, as Martin Luther King Jr. would have said, people of good conscience who recognize that they can no longer stand for systemic violence and no response towards African Americans. And I appreciate the fact that you are coming out. You may not look like me, I may not look like you, but you have decided that enough is enough, and we cannot sit by, because right now it's an African American. Tomorrow it could be you. The next day it could be someone else, and we don't know when that will stop. But the important thing, and I reread Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail last night. The key thing that he was talking about was peaceful, nonviolent protesting. And the reason why that's so important is to make sure that the focus is not lost on the violence, but the focus is maintained on the issue. And so I want to commend you for coming peacefully, yet forcefully. Peacefully, yet with a purpose. And so together, we want to make sure that our voices are heard and that we are here to promote change. Dr. King said that it's great to rally, it's great to get together, but we don't want to stop until change has been enacted. And so however long these protests take, they take. I'm saying stay nonviolent, but I'm saying stay focused, stay committed, and let's make sure we can actually get some steps that we've outlined and steps that we agree on that the local leaders would also support. But we don't want to stop protesting until that's done. So I say thank you, thank you, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Kamal.
Thank you. Real quick, we have some very talented students who are going to be our next speakers. Before I go to them, I just want to acknowledge some people real quick. Mayor Mendenhall, where are you? Mayor Mendenhall right here, give our Mary a hand for coming and supporting our cause. She's been so supportive with civil rights, so supportive. An amazing human, just an amazing person. Also, the Utah Muslim Civic League, please give them a hand. They have been working very hard under the table, behind the scenes, to make this event happen. We are very grateful for them. The Islamic Society of Greater Salt Lake, with Uncle Rashid Afridi right here. We just want to say thanks. I tried so hard to get him to talk. He will not talk. I hope he changes his mind later in the day and gives us some words of wisdom. So next up, we have one of our talented and prominent youth in this community. Selma, will you come up, please? I've known Selma for a long time. She is a very kind-hearted, intelligent, hardworking, and dedicated young woman who has some very strong words to say. Now, when Selma and Khadijah come up and speak, know one thing. I only had one requirement from them. You speak from the heart. Don't clear anything through me. You speak how you feel growing up here as a student here in Utah. We need to hear your voice. So here she is, Selma.
I've been watching black bodies hit the pavement for some time now. Watching public executions of my brothers and sisters circle like wildfire. Watching the sky lit by flames that are howling for justice. Watching you create a mural out of our innocence. Watch you paint my skin color to be a crime. Watch you paint my skin color to be a threat. Watch you paint my skin color to be a death sentence. But let me step back and evaluate my privilege. My black privilege. Black privilege is to get the chance to have your face on a t-shirt. Black privilege is having your name trend on Twitter. Black privilege is people screaming your name without knowing who you are. Black privilege is being entered in a lottery for your life. Black privilege is attending your father's funeral, your brother's funeral, your sister's funeral, your child's funeral. Black privilege is playing Russian roulette whenever you go out, whenever you jog, whenever you sell CDs, whenever you get a traffic ticket, whenever you go to church, whenever you owe a fine, whenever you play with a toy gun, whenever you walk home with Skittles, whenever you take your wallet out, whenever you breathe. Black privilege is being able to breathe. Black privilege is having your life matter only after you die. It's like we live in two different worlds, a world that my country won't stand for me but refuses to let me kneel. A country that won't stand for me but kneels on me. A country where you look outside and your world is upside down. But I've been walking on ceilings my whole life. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, James Baldwin once said, "It comes as a great shock to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance has not pledged allegiance to you." This realization that you're part of a country that doesn't acknowledge that we have the right to exist. This realization that you're part of a country that doesn't stand for you but has a problem when you kneel. This realization that your country doesn't stand for you but has no problem kneeling on. Everyone is saying, you know, it's such a crazy time. The world is upside down. It's unprecedented time. But it comes to show that when you're black, of the black community, our entire lives have been upside down. There hasn't been a moment in history to which our lives, our right to our livelihood hasn't been threatened. And we as a people were grounded in our history, so when the topic comes up of why are we still talking about these issues, this has happened so long ago. It's because there's a societal belief that our history has become a story. It's become a story so much so that it doesn't seem real to you. But when you're Black, you don't have the opportunity to utilize said story whenever it benefits you, whenever you wish. It's a part of you. It's a part of your identity. It's something you carry with you. Right? Angela Davis said, "Radical simply means grasping things at the root." So when we acknowledge our collective lived experiences, we have to acknowledge that as a country, we're so tethered in our experience that the reason that there must be such radical change is because you have to pull from the root. You have to pull from the root that which has been happening for generations. And that also goes for our policing system, whether it be America's general policing system as intertwined with racial violence. The United States patrols were originally organized to protect white supremacy, most notably to catch and return Black human beings to white slave owners. That's the system that we're based on. In Utah, patrols were organized by the Mormon pioneers to protect land stolen from the Ute and the Shoshone people. So racialized policing meant to protect white prosperity. The system is not broken, it's working the way it's designed. So we need to demand immediate changes to this institution, starting with a decrease in the Salt Lake City Police Department in response to projected COVID-19 calls, a housing crisis, a rise in unemployment. We need to reinvest the money in resources that keep us safe, resources that keep us healthy, especially in Black, Indigenous, and Latino communities. We need the officers involved in the Bernardo Palacios shooting to be held accountable. We need to divest the amount of funding for our police. The Salt Lake City Police budget makes up 26% of our city's total budget. And that does not account for the militarization and expansion of the Salt Lake Police. It doesn't account for the lack of justice for the victims of rampant police violence and misconduct throughout Salt Lake. We need to call on these demands into account for our communities, for the well-being of our communities. Body cameras and training has not guaranteed that as a Black community, we get out of these interactions alive, or as any other minority community. Instead of pouring our money into policing, we need to pour our money into the community, into programs that have been proven to work, into healthcare, into the well-being of our communities. And when we pour into our communities, we see a systematic shift. And when we pour our money into policing, what do we see? Black people in Utah are more disproportionately killed by police than any other state. We don't even make up 2%, we make up 1.06% of the population, but account for 10% of the police killings over the past 7 years. We have to do better. The solidarity was cute, now we need action. Thank you.
Next up, Khadija, come up. Khadija is going to be a freshman at the University of Utah. Give her a hand. Another one of our talented youth. Khadija, you go.
And I apologize if my voice sounds raspy. I've been going to these programs, so kind of going through it. But I'm here today to share with you something that's been on my mind for a while. So what's going on right now isn't anything new. Black people have been fighting for justice for many years. We have been the other ones, we have been the different ones since we came to America in the early 1600s. African slaves came here involuntarily with chains on their arms and worked for almost 200 years without pay and against their will. Even after slavery, the slaves did not receive a penny to start off with. The Europeans who came over here were given acres of land to start off with. The African Americans started with nothing and climbed their way up. In my opinion, they are the definition of strength. The year is now 2020. People think things have gotten better just because slavery and segregation have ended. We are still treated differently because of the color of our skin. We are oppressed, we are mistreated, and we are killed. We all breathe the same air, but some people don't have the chance to. George Floyd's last words were, "I can't breathe." Some of us have the chance to jog. A Black man jogging triggers questions like, did he steal something? Is he running away from a crime scene? Ahmaud Arbery was doing just that, jogging peacefully. Some of us can sit in our own homes Breonna Taylor was doing just that, but she was shot and killed. Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, and Sandra Bland are just a few out of many who are victims of police brutality. I am deeply saddened by these tragic deaths, and my deepest condolences go out to the families. My heart is with you all. Now, those are just the ones that we caught on camera. Now imagine the ones that no one's recording. They are silent. We have to walk the same streets as everyone else, but why are we the ones suffering solely because we are Black? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being scared every day. I'm tired of having thoughts of my family and friends not coming home. I'm over it. So I want to share an encounter that I had with a teacher at my school. I'm part of a club called the Black Student Union, and we were having our Monday meetings as usual, and those are a safe place for us to talk about topics that are very sensitive and mean a lot to us. And usually in that room on that day, it's just the members at the club and the advisor, and they're all the time. But on this particular day, the math teacher, who was a white and proud conservative, but she made clear constantly, was in that room. So as I'm making my speech, and I was the one leading the speech this day, and it was about racism in today's media, and I was talking about how we're perceived in the media. Next thing you know, I hear someone laughing under their breath, and I look up and it's the math teacher. So I paused and I was like, do you have something you want to say? And everything that she said shocked the entire room. She was saying things like, the prisons are filled with minorities because they're the ones who keep doing the crime. Cops don't pull people over just because of their race. They have to give them a reason to. Don't you think if people didn't keep doing the crimes, we wouldn't have to hunt them down? Now, those were just a few of the remarks she made within those 30 minutes of her speaking. The students in that room stood their ground and spoke their truth, and I'm so proud of them for doing so. But towards the end of the class, I was sharing a story of how my parents came here for better opportunities, and while I was speaking, she then asked me a question that still this day I still would ponder. She said, are your parents legal? And I bet if I was a white person in that class, she wouldn't have asked me that question. So why is it that we have to go through this? If we don't feel safe in our schools, if we don't feel safe in our homes, if we don't feel safe in the streets, where can we feel safe? On top of that, we are now scared to call 911 because we might be the next emergency. The question on the mind of all of us, especially our mother, is can my son or daughter report themselves, or can someone be around to report and witness what is going on if something does happen? Because it seems like I said, if it was recorded, it never happened. The following are a few of the demands that me and many others have. So criminal justice is very much needed, and accountability for racial mistreatment and all forms of police brutality is vital. Officers who engage in racist behavior must be accountable and held accountable for their actions. If an officer is engaging in racial behavior and the surrounding officers witness it, they should not be bystanders and they should speak up. We want to reopen all the cases in which Salt Lake City Police Department murdered someone to be investigated by a non-police body. We also demand that the release of all the peaceful protesters immediately and drop all charges, and disciplinary action and termination be taken against all the police who violently attack those peaceful protesters. Officers should not be using excessive force and deadly force on unarmed minorities. Why is it that a black man who is armed is killed, is killed, but a white man armed is often let off with a warning or even arrested? I'm not saying everyone is innocent, but police are not judges, and they should not be killing on the scene, especially if the person was not being a threat. We need more representation in the office as well. How are you supposed to represent a group that doesn't even look like you, and you can't even relate to them or people love them? And also, don't you know all that people who like you look like you. All we ask is that we don't close the doors. We want to treat people, and I hope our mayor will be part of that. I want to ensure that the police promise to ensure our safety, and that we can count on You put up with racism, discrimination, segregation, and so much fun daily. Life is not fair, but don't give up now. You cannot give up now. You will not give up. Ignore the statistics that say you are less likely to graduate high school. Ignore the ones that say you are more likely to end up in jail. Ignore the ones that say you are more likely to live in poverty. Because you are not a statistic on a graph, and your worth is greater than that. The generation before us came and fought. What makes you think you're giving up now? Continue to make your voices heard. Continue to fight for what you believe in. And continue to educate yourself and continue being yourself. We need more representation in our society, like I said. We need some color in these offices. We need lawyers. We need doctors, we need police officers, we need engineers, teachers, etc. I just graduated, like I said, this last month, and in my 12 years of high school, I never had a black teacher. And that got to change. I know some schools that have all white staff, and the custodian and the founders are the only people of color. Now that got to change. So let me reiterate what I said. Be proud of who you are, and everything is true.
So you have opportunities to hear our youth. We have one more very talented, respected figure that represents our youth. And I'm Robert names Bruce Connect. He represents the University of Utah, the Black Student Union at the University of Utah, a very active young man, a very well-respected young man. Please listen to his cause, just as with the same respect that we have listened to everyone else. I'm honored to have him here.
Good afternoon, Salt Lake City. First and foremost, I'd like to provide a little background about myself. My name is MJ Powell. I'm a political science major at the University of Utah. I was an explorer with the Salt Lake City Police Department for 3 years. I'm a graduate from West High School, the only actual inner city high school in the state of Utah. Also growing up in the state of Utah, I'm a biracial young man. So I see the ins and outs of these issues on a daily basis, more so any side than the other. I made a speech. My speech is titled Modern Day Struggles for the Negro. My blackness makes me strong. My blackness makes me intelligent. My blackness makes me cultured. My blackness is many other things, but my blackness isn't going anywhere. Today I'm speaking to all of you in hopes of opening your hearts and minds, all while inspiring you to do the right thing, because doing the right thing matters. Whether you're white, black, or blue, I sincerely hope this message inspires you to become a better ally to the cause I and many others are fighting for. As a young black leader, I strive for equality and justice for all people, regardless of their race, gender, religion, citizenship, sexual preference, or orientation. And this being Pride Week, I think it's a time for us all to come together under one flag, a flag of unity. When I see those colors in the rainbow, I see one love and one peace. And I think we can all agree, as citizens of Utah, that's a conversation that needs to be ongoing. And one of these reasons that I do what I do is simple. I do it because it's the right thing to do. I also do what I do because I know what it feels like to be a minority in a marginalized community. The systematic and widespread oppression of people of color has existed for hundreds of years. People use the word slave to describe my ancestors, but something they may fail to realize is that I, and many of those like me, descend from a once great and still powerful, knowledgeable people. We must understand that my ancestors were enslaved. They were as human as you and I. Why does Black history start with slavery? Because that is one of the many ways the oppressor paints a false image to make Blacks look and seem inferior to whites. Why do so many of our educators fail to realize that Black history is American history? Because we currently live in a society in which history is defined by the victor. And as I stand out here today, I seek victory for my people after multi-generational hard-fought battles. In our educational system, we can dedicate 179 days of a school year to learn about the history of white America. All while being programmed with their Black history. As James Baldwin once said, the paradox is precisely this. That as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. One more time, clearly. The paradox is precisely this. That as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. After slavery came segregation in the Jim Crow era. Jim Crow was the name of the racial caste system that operated primarily in southern states, and I emphasize primarily because it was not restricted to those states. This was a nationwide pandemic. Between 1877 and the mid-1960s, Jim Crow was much more than a series of anti-Black laws. It was a way of life. This body of law institutionalized a number of economic, educational, and social disadvantages for Blacks. Jim Crow laws often mandated the segregation of public schools and public spaces, public transportation, and the segregation of restrooms, restaurants, as well as drinking fountains for whites and Blacks. That was all normalized on a social level. Meanwhile, the United States military, city, and municipality, as well as federal workplaces, were also segregated, initiated in 1913 by President Woodrow Wilson. This included requiring candidates to submit photos. His administration practiced racial discrimination and hiring practices at the federal level of government. In 1941, after the attacks on Pearl Harbor, the United States entered World War II. For many African Americans, this was the opportunity to prove themselves and show their allegiance to a country that had run for them. But when the war was over, these brave soldiers came home and were called nigger and told to go to the back of the bus. Many were angry that they went and fought for a country that refused to fight for them. When federal grants were given to white servicemen and not Black servicemen to build or buy nice residential homes, it sparked the civil rights movement. We must fight the war on institutional inequality with the same values to defeat fascism in Nazi Germany. On December 1st, 1955, the civil rights movement began after Rosa Parks, an African-American woman, refused to give her seat up to a white man to go to the back of the bus. At the same time, she was arrested, harassed, and demonized due to unjust laws. Shortly after, the Montgomery bus boycott began, one of America's strongest counterculture movements since the abolitionist and women's suffrage movements. This was because of a Black woman. Say her name. During the civil rights movement, there were multiple peaceful protests, rallies, walkouts, and sit-ins. Conditions seem to improve in some areas more so than others. Their monumental, inspirational, amazing leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X were assassinated. This was a reckless and failed attempt by the corrupt system at preventing Black America from continuing to fight for equal rights and to end a racist era. Corrupt American leaders swung back with the racist war on drugs campaign, leading to the prison industrial complex, and further increased the racial divide within our criminal justice system. Incarceration rates disproportionately impact men of color. 1 in every 15 African-American men and 1 in every 36 Hispanic men are incarcerated in comparison to 1 in every 106 white men. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 1 in 3 black men can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. This is because of the narrative that single black mothers were welfare queens, young black men being labeled super predators, and the detrimental term thug being used by our president. In actuality, children were growing up parentless due to disparities in the criminal justice and healthcare systems. The failure to treat addiction and mental health as a health crisis criminalized and destroyed our neighborhoods. Caucasians are the largest demographic in the United States, and as a result, commit more crimes than any other race, largely against other white people. According to a report from the FBI, 12 to 13% of the American population is African American. Yet for some reason, they account for 35% of jail inmates and 37% of prison inmates of the 2.2 million male population. That is according to a U.S. Department of Justice report from 2014 press. This clearly shows that black men are more likely to be charged and convicted of a crime than a white man because of the color of their skin and the amount of money one may possess. Now, before closing, I would like everyone to understand Black Lives Matter and why we say it. Yes, I believe Black Lives Matter. And I also believe all lives matter. But right now, we should be focused on the black ones because it's very apparent that our legal system doesn't always prove to its constituents that they matter. I should not have to walk down the street and worry about getting shot because I may look out of place or suspicious to a prejudiced individual. I'm sick of hearing people justify illegal searches and seizures by saying a black man resembles a suspect. Because being marginalized shouldn't be a crime. And I think we should all agree it's not a police officer's job to be the judge, jury, and executioner. Rest in peace to Trayvon Martin, Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Eric Gardner, Michael Brown, Azil Ford, Walter Scott, Akai Gurley, LaQuan McDonald, Alton Sterling, Ahmed Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, my once friend, Elijah Smith, and please, justice for Bernardo. This is why we say Black Lives Matter. And if you don't understand by now, unfortunately, you're part of the problem. Use your platform to help the oppressed and be a voice for change. Because at the end of the day, we're one race, the human race, and doing the right thing matters. As MLK once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. Black Lives Matter. Yeah.
Next up is a very good friend of mine, a colleague of mine, someone that I worked with in 2015 at Brockbank Junior High. She was right across, give it up for Brockbank Junior High, please. It's an actor, closed down as part of Cypress High School now.
Can you show me how to get the zero on?
Michelle Jones is one of the most outstanding educators, not only in the state, but in the United States of America. I am not holding back on that. She is phenomenal. It is a widely accepted view amongst all educators. She has done a wonderful job. She has done a wonderful job not only representing teachers, educators, but our students. So please listen to her. She has worked in the South Salt Lake area, Magna, West Valley. She has represented the west side of our students. Please listen to her. After Ms. Michelle Jones speaks, I will speak, then we will end with Mayor Mendenhall.
I would like to start with a moment of silence so that we can reflect on the powerful words that have been spoken here today. Because we need to feel this. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you, Kamala, for inviting me to speak. Words cannot express how honored I am to share this stage. And I am terrified to stand in the shoes of those who spoke before me. I'm terrified because I'm very aware that I can only speak truthfully from the perspective of a white woman with privilege. But it's because of these very facts that when I was asked to speak, I knew I had to accept this honor as an ally in this space. We are here because of the horror of the killing of George Floyd. But that is not the whole truth. We are here because of the killing of George Floyd due to police brutality. But that is also not the whole truth. We are here because of the patterns of police brutality resulting in the deaths of people of color across our country. But that, once again, is not the whole truth. We are here because of a festering disease that has infected our country, our community, our homes, the sickness of institutional racism. I am here today because as a math teacher, I have become increasingly aware of the insidiousness of this disease. It became glaringly evident to me on a warm spring afternoon in a computer lab during my third year teaching. My partner teacher and I had lined up the students and walked them down to the computer lab to take the SAGE, the end-of-year standardized test. I read the directions informing the students that electronic devices were not allowed in the testing area, and then began to read the directions for the test. My colleague went around helping students to log in. As soon as the test began, a white boy pulled out his phone. My colleague asked him to give it to her. He defiantly refused. She then called for an administrator to come down and intervene. The vice principal came to the class with the school resource officer in tow. As soon as the two of them entered the room, you could feel the tension increase. The vice principal asked for the white boy to hand over his phone. He again refused. The school cop stepped in and demanded the phone, and the situation quickly escalated. The white boy was defiant to the cop. Then another student, a student of color, began defending the boy with the phone. It ended with the boy of color being led out of my classroom in handcuffs, while the white boy with the phone was still sitting. Sorry. There were many mistakes made that day by many people, including myself. I have reflected and tried to learn from that awful moment. However, I am convinced that it is connected to the disease in our system that killed George Floyd. This disease is a pre-existing condition that existed at the very founding of our nation. It infected us when our country was organized on the economic and social foundations of slavery. In his autobiography, Trevor Noah compares how Western Europe educates its youth about the Holocaust and how the U.S. educates its youth about slavery. The U.S. tends to teach the facts. Slavery happened, Then segregation happened, and now it's done. Whereas Western Europe teaches the facts but also humanizes the victims, like the story of Anne Frank. And the feelings of the shame and pain surrounding the genocide. They teach a feeling of communal responsibility for the events that transpired, and historical culpability so that it does not happen again. It is this lack of reflection and understanding of white supremacist culture created from the rippling effects of slavery into our modern system that allows the disease of racism to fester. Slavery, segregation, and racism are not just part of the foundations of American history. It is part of our living history. Ruby Bridges, the first Black girl to desegregate white-only schools, is 65 years old. Katherine Johnson, the Black mathematician whose calculations got us to the moon, and whose diagrams are on my dress. I am a math teacher. Could not use the right office, dining, or bathroom facilities. Slavery and segregation, dehumanizing our Black brothers and sisters, is living history. Racism is a pre-existing condition that we've inherited, that none of us asked for or created. The disease of racism is insidious, like a cancer. We are all touched by it, infected by it. It is just most visible in incidents like the killing of George Floyd. However, like any other pre-existing condition, we have a choice. We can acknowledge its existence, that it is in our police forces, yes, but also in our schools, as was so aptly demonstrated prior. It's in our churches, it's in our homes, it's everywhere we walk where there's another individual. It's part of us because this is the system we grew up in. But we can learn about it, facing the hard truth and doing the hard work that we need to do as a community. We, as individuals and communities, must take a proactive approach so that we can mitigate or maybe even overcome the inheritance of our systemic racism. We need to begin by listening to the voices of Black and brown experience, to validate and care for our brothers and sisters of color, and to become aware of the inequities in our system and empathize and know that it's real, and work together to fulfill the promise of our founding fathers, to build a country where all men truly are equal and free. We aren't there yet. We are far from it. But with deliberate actions, we can be there at some point in the future, for my son, for our children. In the words of Nelson Mandela, to be free is not to merely cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. I stand in this space as an ally to my Black and brown brothers and sisters, using my voice and action to enhance and respect their right to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Please join me.
Give one more hand to all of our speakers, please. A little louder, please. A little louder. A little louder. For our two sisters right here. For our two ministers here. For our young, active brother right here. For our phenomenal math teacher right here. Please, please, a little louder. Give them a hand. Last Saturday, we had an event that helped to spark why I am here today. I wanted to make sure that the voices in my community were heard. I wanted to make sure that the most respected public figure in our community, Reverend Davis, was heard first. When I spoke to him, he immediately asked me, are the youth represented? Will the youth be represented the most respected figure in the African American community, the first thing he asked, will the youth be represented today? I told him, yes, sir, they will. As you can see, I don't have a speech written with me. I have one. It's put away. I was here last Saturday, just on the opposite side of this building. I saw a police car overturned and burned. And I said to myself, I'm leaving, I'm going down there. I was speaking to my wife, and I got in the car immediately and told her, say a prayer for me, I'm heading down there. The first thing I wanted to see were any of my students involved, because I wanted to make sure they were guided. As you heard the Reverend, I strongly believe in that message of Dr. Martin Luther King and nonviolence. I strongly support that message. I also support the message of being able to protest peacefully. That is important, to have diverse views and for everyone to listen. That is how we move forward together. What I witnessed yesterday or last Saturday was different. The police car was overturned. I immediately thought about my hero, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King. He was a part of so many riots. If you were to read his autobiography, he deeply believed in the movement of nonviolence. He even went to India to study the movement of Gandhi and his nonviolence approach. Why? Because it works. So I parked 2 blocks over there and walked, not knowing how safe it would be to have my car close. As soon as I got there, it was very obvious there were no peaceful protesters. There were people there standing, and there were others that did not speak for me. But at the same time, they believed they were doing something for their cause. I do disagree with that. Immediately what I saw was this. I saw police officers in riot gear line up. My mind immediately went somewhere else, and I'm asking you to please listen to this story. How many of you are familiar with the rec center just down the street right here? Just right down the street. My young son plays soccer there, my 4-year-old. He loves it. How many of you have kids, young kids? You just about show of hands. How many of them enjoy sports in a safe environment, family environment? We're the same, I'm the same. I'm a busy man. I'm a school teacher. Next year I'll be an assistant principal. I'm very excited about that. On top of that, I coach football, I coach basketball, I coach boys volleyball, I coach boxing. I started a boxing program on the west side for our at-risk youth to have something to do. We have some very talented kids in that area as well. I'm hoping we're able to expand our program. Because I'm so busy, I don't necessarily get to see my family that much. Weekends is usually my time. Last weekend we just got out of school. It's the first time I really got to sit down with my family. But I was called to do something else. This rec center, when I go there, you know what it's filled with? Very loving, supportive parents of their kids. Every weekend I go there, I see this man there. I want to be like this man. he's supporting his son so heavy. Love for his son is so admirable. Every time I see him, I reflect on how much better of a father I need to be for my two sons. He's out on the court helping his son, kicking the ball with him. I was at an event at the library. He's right there at the library. I'm there to check out books. I'm holding a basketball camp. I'm getting ready to hold a basketball camp. He's at the library. At a dance program for kids. He's dancing with his son on the weekend. I'm getting ready for a basketball camp. He's spending time with his son. I see him with his wife. And he's such a loving husband. Last weekend, he was in that riot game. This great man was in that riot gear. And I said to myself, where in the world has my mind gone? Where has my heart gone? Is my heart filled with hate? Or is it filled with love? I get it. I get the violence nationwide, man. I get it. I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. There's certain neighborhoods you don't go into because you know it's going to happen. The young brother was talking about the history of police. There's a history, not only with the police, but movements, with the white supremacist movements. Also, Oklahoma is one of them. Where it's a race riot. In the 1920s, he worked there downtown with my great uncle. He was the whistling at a white woman. They burned Tulsa down. It was considered the black capital of the United States of America. Black banks, black businesses, black doctors, black engineers, black lawyers. We have a lot of pride where I'm from. It was burned down. I grew up with hate in my heart. The first time I read about Emmett Till, 14 years old, 14, said he whistled at a white woman or looked at her inappropriately at 14 years old. 14. His body was decapitated. Anger was in my heart. I've started reading about this in the 4th grade. My father was an activist. My father did not necessarily agree with the nonviolent stance. He agreed if somebody was hurt in our community, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen to another member in our community. And that was his stance. That's how I was raised. What changed my heart and why I believe this is a very unique place. This is the first place. I'm not here telling you Utah is perfect. This is the 4th state that I've lived in. The 4th. It's the first one that I ever felt like a human being without law enforcement. I'm not telling you it's perfect. Things need to be fixed. You heard our youth speak. But I'm also here to tell you this. They do a good job. That is my opinion. They have established a relationship with our African American community, with our different minority communities. I had a meeting last Tuesday with various African American leaders in our community. And the relationship that Chief Brown had, you don't have that in other communities. They could care less where I'm from. We have the opportunity to do something special here. We have the opportunity to do something special here. Our law enforcement wants to work with us. They have worked with us. They have done a great job of working with us. If you want my opinion, show me a better one that has worked with the community better than what our law enforcement has done here. You show me a better one across the country. You show me a better one. I challenge you to show me a better one. I'm not saying it's perfect, but show me a better one. And why is that hope? Because we can bring the necessary change to be the model for the United States of America of how a society comes together, how a community comes together. In order to do that, and this is where I'm going to end, reciprocal accountability. That means everybody is held accountable. I am held accountable. If I commit a crime, hold me accountable. If I am innocent, please defend me. If someone in my community does a crime, hold them accountable. They are not an exception. If they break the law, they break the law, they're not an exception. But if they're innocent, I ask for you to stand with us. The same goes for our law enforcement. When they violate that precious responsibility that we trust them with, let's hold them accountable. But I ask you this, before that can happen, there has to be trust. If we do not trust them, we will be no different than any other city in the United States. Eventually, the poison that has engulfed, which here has hit a lower level, will become a bigger flame, one that we might not ever be able to put out. So I ask you to give them the benefit of the doubt. Life is a test. We're tested numerous times. When a situation happens, I ask you this, give them the benefit of the doubt, let's get the facts. I ask you, get the facts. And why do I say that? There's a situation, and this is where I'm going to end. There was a current event that happened. It looked like a young man that got gunned down, innocent. This is something that's happened all across America. The moment I saw that, my heart was enraged. I've been reading about it my whole life. Now with cameras I'm seeing, we're seeing. When I listened to the family speak, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. The father, it was heartbreaking. My brother, it was heartbreaking. It breaks our hearts. Immediately, I was angry. I was angry. Something interesting happened. This is where I go back to reciprocal accountability. Once the facts started coming out, this young man who lost his life put numerous people's lives at risk. When my life is at risk, when your life is at risk, who are we going to call? Who? Law enforcement. Those people's lives at risk, call our law enforcement. And what transpired afterwards ended up in a situation that did not look good on camera. This is where I say we hold each other accountable. The advice that I would give that family in knowing the truth, please be honest about what happened. And I'm not speaking about anything here locally, just so you know. The advice that I would have given that family before they ever went on the news, if you done something wrong, if that person done something wrong, be honest. Be honest and say, you know what? Done something he shouldn't have done. But that doesn't mean he should have lost his life. You want to know how we move forward? We hold each other accountable. Now, I'm going to say the same thing to our law enforcement. If something happens to where protocol was broke, we need you to say, we made a mistake, this is how it's going to be handled, and it needs to be handled in a justifiable manner, in a manner that is transparent, in a manner that is accountable.